Welcome to Sisters in Crime's Murder Monday, where authors talk about their crime craft. My name is Jacq, and I'm a copywriter, occasional broadcaster, podcaster, and member of Sisters in Crime Australia, where we've been celebrating women's crime writing since 1991. And I'm very excited because my guest for this month's Murder Monday is internationally best-selling author Kayte Nunn. Hey, Kate, how you going?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me, Jacq.
So, Kate grew up in England and the US. You might notice a fabulous accent there, but she's lived in Australia for more than 25 years. We couldn't bash it out of you. She was formerly the editor of Gourmet Traveller Wine magazine, an experience that seems to have given her the inside knowledge to put to brilliant use in her latest novel, The Palazzo. Kate is the author of seven other novels as well, two contemporary love stories, Rose's Vintage and Angela's Share, and four works of historical fiction. The Botanist's Daughter, winner of the 2020 Winston Graham Historical Fiction Prize, The Forgotten Letters of Esther Durant, I love that title, The Silk House, and The Last Reunion. And luckily for us, Kate has also turned to crime. Firstly, with The Only Child, and now The Palazzo, which is in your favourite bookstore and library right now. Kate, do you think you could give us an elevator pitch for The Palazzo?
Sure. Absolutely. The story opens in a converted old palazzo that's now a small luxury hotel, nestled in the foothills of the Italian Alps. And it's about to become the scene of a reunion or a party, a birthday party, actually, for a beauty entrepreneur and her close friends and family. But we open with the maid arriving at the hotel to begin work, and she likes to have a swim before work, and the owner has kindly let her use the hotel's incredible swimming pool. But as she gets there, she finds a body in the pool. And then we spend the rest of the story going back by a week to find out who is in the pool and why they're in the pool.
I know. Because when you said a body in the pool, I'm just like, but you don't know. And the thing too is you will pick that book up and you will race through it. It is absolutely gorgeous. And oh my goodness, the food. Did you do research for the food? Because
I did.
oh my goodness, that's
I
excellent
did a lot
research.
of research on the specialties of the region and
Yeah.
included that. What sort of restaurant the new owner might have worked in. He's a disgraced chef who used to work in New York. And I've always loved food in books, judiciously used. I don't like
Hmm.
too much food. And it doesn't actually have to be delicious food in books, but for me, it's really evocative. And look, the setting of a lovely Italian summer holiday is just the perfect opportunity to bring in the food and the wine and the cocktails.
And the heat. You did an excellent job of the heat as well.
Thank you. When I was writing it, Italy was having a heat wave, as it is, as this
Yeah.
year, as we speak now. And that kind of festering, sweltering atmosphere where people do go a bit mad is just the perfect atmosphere to conjure up for a crime novel, I think.
Well, I think also you live in northern New South Wales, which has that heavy humidity that is
Yes.
really hard to escape sometimes.
Yes, yes, I'm no stranger to suffering in the heat, that's for sure.
So, our first question, ooh, what triggers you to write on a particular theme?
It can be a number of things, and often it's the confluence of a couple of ideas.
Yeah.
It might be something I've read in the news. It might be a response to a novel I've read that explores a particular idea. It might be a story that somebody tells me, a true story. And it might be just a character popping into my head and demanding that I tell their story. So it's really a mix of
Yeah.
lots of different things and it's my current preoccupations as well.
Do you ever worry about being preachy? And I suppose this is for the historical or the fact.
Yes,
You know, when you're putting fact into fiction, do you ever feel as though you're being a
I
bit
had to rein myself in a little bit in this
yeah,
novel, and my editor quite very well pointed it out in that I was looking at the contrast between rich and poor and the haves and the have-nots a little bit in this novel, and people who've been very successful, and then other people who might have failed to thrive through choices of their own, but also other circumstances. And I just had to rein myself in from commenting on that, and I
yeah,
think. I never want to make the mistake that of underestimating the intelligence of the reader. The reader knows full well what you're getting at, without you having to spell it out, I think. Yeah.
What triggers you to write about a particular story? So, what's the inspiration
Oh, for this
or trigger
particular
or
book?
and no, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter any particular book. You can use an example or you can use that.
yeah.
You don't have to
That's
excuse the
quite a
noise.
similar question to the first one. In this instance, I was very interested in what happens with a group of friends and family when one person is very successful,
Yeah,
and the others maybe are not so, and the inequalities that can come about when what was once a very equal friendship on equal terms suddenly has a lot of inequality sort of baked into it. That was really interesting.
how did you
Um,
come? How did you come or discover that sort of dynamic? So, was there anything that just prompted that, or did you read something,
It's
or did you see something, or
it's experiences in my own life and
yeah,
seeing what's happened to some friends of mine from university days and things like that, and just having that awareness.
yeah,
Definitely. It's also things in popular culture that I might have seen years ago. There's a movie, Peter's Friends, with Emma
hmm
Thompson and Stephen Fry, and that had really stuck in my mind as something that showed a group of friends and that changing dynamic. So yeah, that was definitely there. Yeah, and also people hiding secrets. And I really liked the idea of having a very specific hook for this novel, which is that every one of the small cast of characters has been responsible for somebody's death. And it's only throughout the novel that we
yeah.
learn how that's occurred and why it might have occurred.
And the age-old question: Are you a plotter or a pantser?
Oh, I'm definitely a pantser, unfortunately. I didn't even know who did it until the structural edit, when my editors were like, we just need one more twist. We need one more twist. I'm like, what? I've given you everything I've got.
Yeah,
And I went for a walk. And when I came back from the walk, it suddenly hit me. And I was like, yes, of course, that is what has to happen. That is the whole point of the story. It just brings it round full circle and makes it make sense. But it just took a lot of sort of angst and hard thinking to get there.
yeah.
But yeah, I had no idea. So I guess the story is a surprise to me as I write it. I have an idea of characters. And the one thing I love about writing crime is, and particularly very close circle crime with a small cast of characters, is the ability to really go deeply into character and
Yeah.
make those characters incredibly nuanced and flawed, and they've all got issues, but somehow they're fascinating and you want to learn more about them.
I was like, I really want to go down that line, but I've got to get my questions in. Do you have a favorite food when you write?
Um,
Given
Usually
all
just
the beautiful food in the
food.
book,
Yeah.
was there a
It,
particular dish that you kind of know?
no, I do remember years ago when I was a book editor and I was a cookbook editor, working on a book on Chinese food for about 8 months, and I ate quite a lot. I cooked some of the recipes,
Yeah.
and then by the end of it, I was like, I never want to have Chinese food again. Had just been immersed in it. But no, look, when I'm focused and writing, I'm not hungry. I'm not especially thirsty.
hmm
All my attention is, on my imagination and what the characters in my head are doing.
Who do you turn to for help with your writing? Now, this could be a plot hole. This could be stark procrastination. This could be any of those.
I talk things through with my husband.
hmm
I have a group of local writer friends here, and we get together once every few months, and I might raise a question with them, and we might just discuss what we're writing, and then suggestions can come out of that,
Oh,
and
fantastic.
ideas of where to turn, or or have you seen this article, or this reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's my agent who might say, oh, if that's what you're thinking about, check this out, that kind of thing. Yeah, so
hmm
I'm lucky I've got a good network of people around me.
Who is your favorite crime character?
Favorite crime character has to be Miss Marple, because I've always liked writing about people who are underestimated, and
hmm
she is the ultimate underestimated, unnoticed quiet woman who nobody pays much attention to, and I think that's fascinating.
And she can knit and not look. It's like, yeah, it's like hashtag life goals. I would love to be able to knit and not watch every single stitch and
Oh,
still not
okay.
figure out when I drop them.
Ah,
But I'd also love to sell crabs. I mean, small
yeah.
town. What's what's the best reaction you've had to your writing?
Oh, there've been a few.
Yeah,
I remember when The Silk House came out, and a librarian from a very posh English girls' school wrote to me, contacted me on Twitter, I think, and said that in their school, the girls have a reading week I think every term or every year, maybe every semester, where they
yeah.
don't have homework and they're encouraged to read instead of doing homework every night. And
That's
she
fantastic.
had ordered a copy of The Silk House for all of the lower sixth to read during reading week. That was pretty special. I
That's
know.
unbelievable. That's an entire generation just there.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. Oh, do you have another one? You did say you had a few.
I think when The Botanist's Daughter was chosen for the National English Honor Society Common Reader, the National English
Oh,
Honor Society is a society for high schoolers in the US and all around the world, actually, who excel at English. And they chose The Botanist's Daughter. And previous selections had been these incredibly, literary writers, very lauded. I think the last Australian writer chosen was Marcus Zuzak. And so when I first got the email, I thought it was a spoof. I didn't. I was like, what?
it
This is
was a
ridiculous.
spam.
This is really dodgy. And I had to really do some research to
Yeah,
figure out, oh, okay, it might be true. So that was pretty special as well. Things that I'd never even had on my kind of bucket list were both of those, and
yeah.
they were incredible. Yeah.
That's amazing. We might have touched on this before, but how do you work out plot twists and red herrings?
Um, just a number of things. I think it's being really immersed in the story. I do
Hmm.
this thing where it might be the last thing I think about before I go to sleep at night. When you're
Yeah,
in that liminal state before you're about to go to sleep, and just start thinking, what could happen, what will happen, to really be present with my characters. And then again, when I wake up first thing in the morning, and the unconscious has a pretty amazing way of working things out.
yeah.
So similarly, when I'm walking, that just kind of seems to churn through my mind. Or if I've been writing all day and I've reached a stop, but I have to go and drive somewhere to say to pick my daughter up from school or something, that's when suddenly when I'm driving and my one part of my brain's doing something else, the wheels start turning again, and I often have to dictate notes to myself or pull over and write a quick note because suddenly that frees something in my imagination. Yeah.
Oh, great. This is very indicative of the palazzo. How important is place in your writing?
Huge, hugely important. I used to be a travel writer, and so conjuring up a place in a very few short sentences is something I've always enjoyed doing, and just picking
Yeah.
out little details that really resonate. And for me, often the story starts with a character in a landscape, and I have to write to work out what's going to happen to them.
So, what was the inspiration for the palazzo?
Well, interestingly enough, I had thought about writing a historical novel set during the Second World War in this region because it was well known for the Italian resistance and the staffette, who are the young
Yeah.
girls who ran messages and bicycled through the countryside and kind of went under the radar. But I wrote about 5,000 words of that and just couldn't see where the story was going to go. It just didn't grab hold of me in a way a story needs to. And I
Yeah.
set it aside. And then probably about 5 years later, I was thinking I wanted to write a closed circle crime, something quite glamorous, and to create an environment where really want to be as a reader.
Yeah.
And then I wanted somewhere isolated. So this popped into my head. And then as I was writing, White Lotus Sicily came out. I was like, oh, thank gosh, I didn't set it in Sicily. It's somewhere else. I would have looked really try hard. So yeah, yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, for those who haven't yet read Palazzo, there is a little bit of the resistance fight in there. We're not
Tiny
going to give
bit, yes.
anything away.
The character Stella, who would have been a very young girl had I written it in as a historical novel,
Yeah.
is there as an old lady, and I like how kind of having her presence, sort of almost haunting the
Yes.
palazzo.
Yes. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to say a typical nonna, but she's just in the background.
Yes.
Do you ever surprise yourself with how dark your characters can be?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. But that actually is the most exciting part, and particularly of writing crime, because you can really lean into that. And but as we've seen recently, there's nothing. Truth is stranger than fiction, and there's some darkness and people doing things that are really hard to comprehend, and that if you put them in a novel, people might not find it credible. So yes.
Don't you like that? I mean, it's fiction, but if it's not believable, we don't want
You
it.
absolutely, the reader has to be on the journey with you, otherwise they'll toss it aside. Yeah.
How much of you is in your characters?
Oh, usually a fair bit, but
Yeah.
maybe aspects of me that other people won't realize. Yes, definitely. My thoughts, my opinions all come through in one way, shape, or form, and they might be slightly twisted and warped, but yeah, it's and my characters all have an opinion, and my opinion has is on the page. And I read some writing advice years ago, and it said if you're not on the page, then put yourself there. So I always stick by that.
So would you be distributed evenly amongst your characters, or would there be one character that is predominantly you?
There's probably one character maybe I sympathize with or
Yeah.
empathize with more, and maybe that's because I've put more of me in them. I'm not
Mhm.
entirely sure. I haven't analyzed it quite like
So we don't have to be
that.
too introspective.
But there might be little elements across.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was going to ask this question, but we've already dealt with that one. What's your top writing tip?
read. You cannot be a writer unless you're a reader.
Which is
That would be
awesome.
it. And can I
And
have a
now we,
second?
yeah.
Don't expect it to be perfect straight away. And I don't think beginning writers quite realize the amount of revision and editing and rewriting involved is huge, absolutely huge. And you've got to have the stamina for it.
And that was the next question. What's your top editing tip?
Editing, to break it down.
Yeah.
So I remember when I worked on magazines, you'd look at one element when you were checking the final pages. You just look at one element. So you might look at all the headlines, you might look at all the folios, you might look at all the kind of running heads, you might look at capitalization, all that kind of thing. So when I'm editing, I look at one element. So I might just look at dialogue
Yeah.
and really block out anything else so I can just see how sharp and how tight the dialogue is. I might look at all the chapter endings. Do they end with a question, a resolution, or some sort of revelation, just to really make it as sharp as you possibly can. And that way you kind of avoid getting overwhelmed and in this big
Hmm.
soup of, 90 odd thousand words.
Yes. And I mean, we're almost out of time. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much. But the final question, how would you get away with murder?
I have never thought about that before. Um, Gosh. That's a really difficult question. Leave the country.
A fast exit.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, thank you so much for your time. The Palazzo looks like it's going to be another bestseller. I mean, the descriptions of food alone, amongst other things, not to mention that little thrill and that little anticipation, they were incredibly enticing. And the heat and the ice
Oh,
cream.
thank
And just that cast, that was, just a beautiful collection of friends at the end of what I think would be not necessarily the life of the friendship, but they'd just gone so
you.
many
Yeah.
different ways. Murder
Yes.
Mondays, our interviews are available on Sister in Crime's YouTube channel at 6 p.m. once a month on a Monday. Thank you so much for your time. That was
Oh,
wonderful.
thank you for the great questions, Jack. I really appreciate it.